Yo, what is good, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. So for this video, this is going to be pretty much just a recap slash lecture on basically mastering power of 3. Okay, now my previous video was a lecture on market maker models as I'm recording this video. This video is going to be sort of a weekly recap, okay, in a sense of the trades that I had taken, as well as what I had seen, my pre-market analysis sent out to my students, and how it played out, and stuff like that. So, yeah, let's get straight into it. So, to begin, I had explained this in my previous video, but going into the year open, I had been expecting for price to eventually draw lower at the start of the year, and the reason for that being that the same way that the previous yearly Po3 opened up is that we had manipulated a bit higher, formed a crack correlation or an SMT with the previous month high, leading us to a big dump lower, putting in our manipulation for the year before we ended up having our distribution higher throughout the rest of the year from April all the way to December, going into the new year. Okay, so with this being said, for the past, I'd say since the previous quarterly open of the year, so since October, we have been in this huge accumulation range. So with this being said, I have not taken the largest sized trades within this range, and just overall, considering that we've still been stuck in this range, especially since yearly open, and we're opening up in a consolidated range, this is not to my liking. Now, something else that I'm going to reference, this is also looking very similar to the previous year's open, I believe it was. In fact, why not? Let's go check it out. All right, well, as you can see, the year opens up. Okay, so the year opens up right here. Obviously, January 1st is a bank holiday, so the yearly open is right here. Now, as you can obviously see, we were in the same accumulation range. We were accumulating going into the yearly Po3 open. Okay, so as you can see, pretty much we're in a similar case scenario here as well, because sorry about that. As you can see, at the end of 2024, we had been slowly grinding higher before eventually accumulating before the end of the year. And then the beginning of the yearly Po3 opens up, and then February, at the end of February, begins to bring us lower. March continues that. April brings in our end of manipulation before we begin distributing higher, very, very strong. Then what do we see? We start grinding higher towards the end of 2025, and then at around October, we start to accumulate a lot, and then going into the yearly open, we open up within this accumulation range. So with that being said, until we break out of this range, okay, because as you can see, although we did not break out of this range, we had created a significant SMT at these highs before we started manipulating lower. However, in this scenario, I want us to break out of this accumulation range, preferably, as you can obviously kind of tell, YM is within this all-time highs range, as well as ES. I am looking for price to ultimately break out of the accumulation range lower. Okay, now let me really quick stop yapping about the outlook really as much with that, and let's begin on the weekly recap. Now what I'm really going to recap for this given week is really my 30-minute Po3 trade that was taken place on the 28th, I believe it was, I believe I caught around 170 points, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, on the 28th of January 2026, I caught a 175 point trade. So we're going to go to that day, and I'm going to explain to you guys why I had taken this trade. So let's rewind to Wednesday, and let's get into it. Okay, so to begin, as you can see in some of the videos, as you are currently watching this video, whether it's a long time for you or a very short amount of time since I've posted this video. In my previous videos from posting this video, I've explained and I'm going to continue to encourage the idea of candle-candle Po3 development, okay? So with this being said, what I mean by this is when it comes to quarterly theory, it's a significant sequential SMT, okay? However, I'm not going to really go into the quarterly theory side of things, sorry. So pretty much we had an SMT with previous day high here, okay? As you can see, sorry, wait, wrong way. There, that's better. Sorry. As you can see, YM fails to raid the previous day high, while NQ and ES, well, obviously do. Okay, so this is a significant SMT regarding quarterly theory. However, if we drop down now to the 15-minute, the reason why I'm dropping down to the 15-minute is simply because this is what else I saw on the day. Time frame alignment tells me otherwise when it comes to quarterly theory, but once again, I'm not going to go into that, so let me just take this off really quick. Sorry. Okay. So now going on to the 15-minute, we had going into, I believe it was right off of market open being 9:30, we had formed an SMT with the previous 6-hour high. Okay, as ESNY and NQ failed to raid that high, while YM succeeded to. Okay, YM obviously took it. Okay, so with that being said, we now also have our other significant SMT with the previous 6-hour high. Now, what did we also have? Well, we had 3 significant SMTs regarding the previous 90-minute high. Okay, being, I believe it was 2 up here, and then 1 formed off open because, as you know, the SMT with the previous 6-hour high was formed off of open. Also, what was formed was with the previous 90-minute high was also formed off open. Another one added to the 2 initial. So really quick, let me go into my pre-market analysis for this given day before we get into the trade. So pretty much coming from how we moved yesterday and how we opened today, having the understanding of Po3 and understanding that within each given Po3, we must put in an M manipulation for us to validate a clean given power of 3 candle. On days like this, in which we fail to put in our manipulation below our opening price of the day, I expect for us to want to draw back towards this for either continuation higher or distribution lower. Not sure if price's plan is to displace from here after taking these highs or shoot for all-time highs. Ideally, I would rather us to not continue to distribute higher so that when we get out of this higher time frame accumulation range since October, it would be breaking lower. This could give us a better start to the yearly Po3, distributing higher like usual, similar to the start of last year. Would preferably look to short, right? And as you can see, I had explained all of this. Now, going into the Po3 side of things, something that I also have encouraged a lot is the fact that within each given power of 3, we must see a valid manipulation to take place below or above opening price to, give us a clean Po3 setup. Otherwise, this can act as a draw or a magnet to price, okay? So let me really quick. As you can see, YM had put in manipulation below, but however, YM was also lacking and sort of the decoupled asset, as you can see, based off we were not running the previous day high, the previous 90-minute high, and then we ended up running the previous 90-minute high, 6-hour high, etc., etc. Okay. So this being said, on NQ and ES, we put practically 0. On NQ, we literally put 0 manipulation below the daily open. Okay, so really quick, let me just name this the daily open. As you can see, we put literally 0 manipulation. So with this being said, this can act as a clear draw on price, and the only reason for that being that to have a valid power of 3, whether it's weekly power of 3, daily power of 3, monthly power of 3, yearly power of 3, etc., right? Which is why I was talking about earlier how I want to see a valid manipulation take place going lower off the yearly open, is so that we can put in our valid manipulation below opening price. Okay. However, in this scenario, we had not put in any manipulation below daily open, which, told me that we want to go lower, draw lower towards the daily open. So with that being said, I was like, okay, let's let's take this. I'm willing, not let's take this. I'm interested in shorts to the daily open. Okay, now jumping down to the 1 minute, as I showed you, we had an SMT with the previous 6-hour high, with the previous 90-minute high, with the previous day high, as well as something to take note of is that we also had an SMT with, I believe it was the previous week high. One second. Yes. As you can obviously see, this is the previous week high. NQ had ran it. So from here we had we had a significant SMT with previous week high, while YM is obviously the decoupled asset, lacking all this distribution higher to take this all out, which is showing us that NQ and ES is doing the damage before we can have our distribution lower. Okay? So, with all this being said, we can now drop down to the 1 minute to refine my entry and why I had taken what I had taken. Okay? So, to begin, having the understanding of 30-minute PO3, it opens up at, 9:30 open. And what do? We must see our manipulation above or below opening price, and then something to tell me that the end of the manipulation is occurring before I can, take my trade confidently. So, pretty much, from here, New York had opened, and we displaced a little bit higher. Okay, so with this being said, there was a specific reason as to why I was waiting for 9:45 to open before taking this trade. It is quarterly theory based because it is considered a microcycle, and it is when the new microcycle had opened. But pretty much how it worked was I saw that 9:30 opened up, not giving me any valid entry, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit this out and wait for 9:45. I saw the distribution lower. I was like, this is purely fake. What do? We end up manipulating higher, forming our what is called microcycle sequential SMT at this high, as ES and NQ raid the previous micro high, right? While YM obviously fails to. Once again, proving that YM is the decoupled asset that is lacking the distribution and the displacement higher, indicating that NQ and ES might end up falling. Okay, so now from this, once we had formed this, I had taken my entry off a couple things. The reason for this being that we were having some trade evade issues at the moment. So due to this, I had a little bit of trouble with my entry-wise. So on a couple of my accounts, I was lucky enough to get filled right here. This is considered a true change in the state of delivery. But I was able to get filled around here. On some accounts, on other accounts, I got filled a little bit later, being around 272, I believe it was, but still with very, very low risk. And I got practically barely any drawdown, although when I opened up my trade evade, I had still been in the trade, so I was really lucky. Yeah. So with that being said, that is pretty much the trade that I had taken. But really quick, understanding the overall, having the understanding of power of 3 when it comes to yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily, 4-hour and 30-minute power of 3. When it comes to 30-minute and 4-hour power of 3, we must have our manipulation above or below price, right? The opening price of that given PO3. And then we must have our crack correlation, right, between the 3 correlated assets to indicate to me that price is having its end of manipulation, right? We are ending our manipulation, and we are going to now begin our distribution, right? The distribution phase of the power of 3. Okay? Now, when it comes to yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily power of 3, I had just recapped everything to you guys. The daily PO3 lacked manipulation below the opening price. And not only that, but SMT-wise and quarterly theory-wise, we were proving for price to want to send lower. So with this being said, like I said in my pre-market analysis, having the understanding of PO3 and that within each given PO3, we must put in our manipulation, For us to validate a clean power through candle, we must put in our manipulation below opening price of the day. So what did we do? We, dumped lower and put in our manipulation for the day. And I was right about that. Now, really quick, little heads up for you guys. Right now, I am currently sending out some really, really good stuff in my free Discord server. If you have not joined it already, it is Pacificus Amor Day. I've been, sending out a lot of good stuff. All kinds of good stuff. We are joining up and we are growing exponentially. We are genuinely, I've never seen us grow this much. We were not a very big community just a little bit ago, and now we have gotten a couple hundred members, and I am so incredibly grateful. So if you have not already joined up the server, feel free. We're just 100% free, right? There's no reason to, and there's no reason not to. So I hope to see you there. But really quick, one last thing to say is that in there, I'll be sending out more outlooks, more free outlooks, sort of how I'm currently seeing and what I want to see happen. Okay, so just keep in mind as you're leaving this video and as you're clicking off this video and going to watch your next video or just going to do whatever you're going to do, is before we leave this current accumulation range in which we are in, let me really quick get out of replay mode. Okay, going into the month of February, I'm expecting bearish prices, lower prices for us to put in our manipulation, run out this accumulation range, and put in our manipulation for the year so that we can continue to just grind higher and higher and higher for the rest of the year, since considering YM, ESN, and Q are overall bullish assets, or bullish indices. So with this being said, we should continue to send higher and higher and higher in the future. So what we must do is put in our valid manipulation within our given Po3, being our yearly Po3, to tell me that we have, put in our valid manipulation and can continue higher for the year, having a set bias going into every single day, being bullish. So with this being said, that is pretty much the video for you guys. Once again, if you guys have not already joined Pacific some more today, go ahead, join up. 2026 is our year. We are going to grow exponentially. I feel it. I love y'all so much. Hope you guys are having an amazing year so far. About to finish January. Matter of fact, is the end of January. So, yeah, with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this video and have an absolutely blessed day. I love you guys so much. Peace.